Hello, I'm Dr. Ishinna Sadana and I'm a parenting coach, and if you have a child under the age of 3, you don't want to miss what I'm going to say in the next 30 seconds. Did you know that 85% of our children's brain development gets done by the age 3 and we parents can influence it? If you want to give the best of this opportunity to your child, join my masterclass on early parenting. I will be joined by a guest who has been working with scientists and researchers, and he believes that each parent should be empowered to make the best of these magical 3 years.
Join in for an exciting masterclass with parenting coach Dr. Ishinna Sadana and learning expert Manish Jar for a never-before insight into brain development in 0 to 3-year-olds. Full session attendees get a certificate of completion. The masterclass is starting now.
Hello everyone, welcome to this masterclass on early parenting. I'm Dr. Ishinna Sadana and I'm a parenting coach, and if you have a child who's under 3 years of age, this masterclass is for you. Did you know that 85% of brain development happens in the first 3 years of our children? Did you know that parents, us, we can influence this process of brain development in children? In this session, we are going to discuss what parents can do at home in the comforts of their home and make the best of this magical window of 0 to 3 years and reveal their children's real potential. You will get to know what you can do at home to support your children's brain development. Today, we will be joined by Mr. Manish Jar, who's the founder and CEO of Bablr Early Learning, and he's actually a learning expert. He has spent the last few years collaborating with researchers, with scientists to understand how we can empower parents, because it's the parents who are spending the first 3 years with their children. How we can empower parents to create the right environment at home so that we can actually bring our children's true potential out. Okay? Manish Jar also passionately talks about the skill called learning to learn. We understand what it means, though he says that that is the most important skill of 21st century. And he at least argues that this is the best gift we can give to our children before 3 years of age. So let's have Mr. Manish Jar with us.
Hello, Ishinna.
Hello, Mr. Manish. Welcome. Welcome to this masterclass.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Let's talk about it. We want to know about this. What is this big deal about the first 3 years of our children's age and their brain development? What is the big deal about it?
Sure. Ishinna, this is one of those best kept secrets of science. If you went and spoke with a neuroscientist or a developmental pediatrician, they will tell you that each child is born with the same potential as Einstein or Tagore or any other talented person you can imagine, if not more.
Okay.
Let me dig a little deeper in this. So each one of us is born with about 100 billion neurons in our brain. And these neurons connect with each other, mostly before the age of 3, to create neural connections, which are also called synapses. Now, because multiple neurons are connecting with multiple neurons, there's this whole network or a neural pathway that gets made.
In our brains.
Yes, in our brains. And it is these connections which are the building blocks of human intelligence. The good news is that this process can be influenced. So if parents do the right things before the age of 3, they can significantly enhance let's say the quality of these connections. The connections become stronger and more sophisticated. And the stronger and the more sophisticated these connections are, higher is the intelligence of a person.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. The challenge is that most of the parents are not aware of this. And even if they are, there are specific things that parents can do to augment this process, and which is one of the things that I think we should definitely talk about, some very specific things that parents should take away in this masterclass that they can do at home
Okay.
to augment this brain development process.
So Manish, isn't it too early? I mean, aren't children really small? 0 to 3 years, they hardly understand anything.
No, it is not, Ishna. Actually, I believe we adults project our limitation on children. And that's why we have a tendency to think that this may be too early. Actually, nature has designed little children, the newborns, to absorb information like sponges. It's evolutionary. There's nothing more a child wants than to learn, than to get more and more information, because a child's survival depends on learning, right? So, and look at the fact that a child starts speaking a full language in at the end of second year. Most of the children
so
start
true.
talking by the age of 2. So how do they pick up a full language? We as adults would find it very difficult to pick up a full language in 2 years, right? And children are statistical learners. They absorb random information, they make random observations, and they are able to, kind of put it together in their mind to make a coherent, logical picture. So we as we need structure. We need, a lot of shortcuts to learn. Children don't. They just
You're
learn.
so right, Manish. That is so true. If we think about it, in the first 3 years, we are not purposely teaching language to our children. And
Exactly.
by age 3, they're speaking it in a flow, any language that they are exposed to.
Exactly.
Yes, that does make a lot of sense. So Manish, I mean, how does this work? No one's ever told us about this.
Yeah, you are right. No one has told us about this because this whole science is very new. In fact, this branch of neuroscience called cognitive neuroscience, it is a relatively new branch. Most of the research that has happened in cognitive neuroscience is only in last 2 decades. And in fact, it should make way into mainstream education very soon. I was listening to a very famous cognitive neuroscientist from America recently in a session. And he actually made 2 statements, which I really believe are true. One, he said that by 5, the game is over. He was referring to a child's age. And then he said that in the days to come, we are going to see more and more principles of cognitive neuroscience making their way into the mainstream education, and they will empower us to learn better. Wow. So to go back to your question of how does it work? So basically, there doesn't at least a dozen theories which are popular among mainstream experts. But let me quickly touch upon 3 of them. The first one is about the interactive communication that parents need to have with their children, little children, very frequently, almost, many times a day, before the age of 3. There's a very fine institution called Center on the Developing Child at the Harvard University. They use a very interesting term to define this. They call it serve and return. They have picked it up from the game of tennis. So how players do serve and return in tennis. They say that the parents should be doing this interactive communication serve and return with the little children. And this return does not mean that the child should be talking. The return means the child is actually responding in some or the other manner.
So basically, I understand is that as parents, we have to talk to children. Serve and return means talking to children, communicating with them.
Correct. And even if the child has not started talking, the child is responding by babbling or cooing, or even children are making raspberry bubbles. Whatever the child is doing, that is a child's way of responding, and that counts as a response. And then
so it's a two-way communication,
right, two-way.
Even with the child as small as 6 months old.
No, right after birth. You need to have
Okay.
conversations as if, so a mother needs to talk to a child as if she's talking to her best friend, or a dad needs to talk to a child as if he's talking to his best friend. Give them the respect that you would accord to an adult, right? And do not believe that they don't understand. Have lengthy conversations. Which brings me to the next theory, which is quite popular, and I quite like it. 30 million words. So without getting into million words or 30 million words, the essence of this theory is that the more the number of words, new words, that you speak to your children before the age of 3, the higher is the growth in intelligence, right?
Okay.
So the number of words, new words that you speak makes a huge difference. And that is one of the reasons why children who come from relatively and unfortunately more deprived sections of the society, and where the parents are not so educated, or they do not have the time to spend with their children and talk to them, the brain development of those children is found to be a lot less than compared to, let's say, the middle class children or upper middle class children, where parents are educated and they have the time to spend with their children and they're talking all the time.
So it's the exposure.
Right. Exposure, and very specifically the language exposure. The number of words, the new ideas that you share with your child, how you articulate those ideas makes a lot of difference.
So Manish, what we are doing with our children today, isn't it enough? I mean, that's what our parents did with us, and we have turned out fine. So aren't we doing enough?
Actually, enough is very relative and subjective. Maybe some parents, what they do is enough, and maybe for some it's not. But for most parents, the way I see, it's not enough, right? Because there is another third thing that we need to keep in mind. So the two things I spoke about, interactive communication and these 30 million words. But then there's another third thing, which is about developmental experiences. So the more the number of new experiences that we are able to offer to our children, and when you say experiences, we are referring to all 5 senses. We have 5 senses. We're talking about all 5 senses. Language is visual and auditory, but then there are 3 other senses that we have, right? Touch, taste, smell. And if we bring to our children new experiences related to all these senses, give them that exposure, that also makes a huge difference. And look, intuitively we understood for a very long time, but we did not have the scientific data or the research available to back it up. But now we do. So to go back to your question, that is it that our parents didn't do this with us, and so why? So, and that's a very, very, very good question actually, and I would like to answer it, with the 2 arguments. So let me ask you, if your parents did not do, what makes you think that you could have not turned out to be a Nobel Prize winner in literature or science? Right?
Okay.
Or that you were 3 times as talented as you already are, right? Let's look at another argument that, and which is very, very, I mean, we all know it. It's evidence. You don't even need the data. Look at the world around you. Children who come from, like I mentioned earlier, relatively deprived sections of the society, and unfortunately who do not get the kind of exposure that middle class children get. More often than not, you will find that those children do not intellectually develop well. They are not so good in studies, right? As middle class or economically endowed children, right?
Yeah.
Why does that happen?
Why?
That's the reason. Because parents are not doing enough in the first 3 years, because parents are socially deprived or economically deprived sections. They may not be themselves that educated, or they may not have the time that they should be spending, or the quality time, or doing these 3 things, right? Interactive communication,
of course,
language exposure, giving language exposure to the children, or bringing those developmental experiences to them.
Interactive communication and language exposure, and
right.
The third thing is
developmental experiences.
Developmental experiences is something that we have to give our children so
Absolutely.
that we can help in their brain development process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But Manish, what about preschools? We are going to send our children ultimately to preschools and they are going to get these experiences. So aren't they sufficient?
Yeah. So if you ask me, preschool is a bit late. So most of the parents send their children to preschool between 18 and 24 months, some even later.
Yeah.
That's a bit late. You've already lost out on the first 18 months, which are most crucial. So that's one. Two, proof of the pudding is in eating. So I recently came across, in fact, this research was apparently done a couple of years ago. India Today magazine published it. It was done by some organization which is based in Gurgaon. So they went and they tested about 20,000 children from the fee charging English medium schools. So these are middle class kids. They tested them, and their data suggests that 87.5% of children are not reading at the age appropriate level, and these are grade 4 children. So middle class children going to English medium fee charging schools in grade 4, they do not read at the level that they should be reading, correct? And 87.5%. Now think about it for a minute. Only 12.5% children are reading at the age appropriate level. Don't you think this gap will keep on widening as these children grow up? Because when you read better, you learn better. Every day you're reading.
So this has something to do with the first 3 years.
No, you asked about the preschool, and I'm saying that all these children went to the preschools.
Yeah.
Most likely. But then still they don't read. So which means there's something about preschools which is not working.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying preschool is not needed. I am saying preschool is a bit late. So you're missing out on the first 18 months. And then at the current level of delivery, preschools are probably not able to provide children with the kind of developmental exposure that they need. And that is why you see 87.5% children not reading at the age appropriate or the grade appropriate level by grade 4, right? So my takeaway from this is that parents have to take charge. Look, you can't outsource this first 3 years of development is absolutely, it's simply too important to be outsourced. It is probably,
and of course we have to.
Yeah, it's probably the most important thing that you will do. It is the most important window of your parenting journey. How can you outsource it? Right? You need to keep it in your control. You need to keep driving it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so as a parent, I'll ask you, if I want to do this, what do I do? How easy it is? How difficult it is? I'm ready to take charge. What to do?
Great. Now that's a good start. So it's easy in the sense that you're not going to do things which are very, very sort of difficult to do, or which will not fall within your skill set generally. But at the same time, it is difficult because it requires you to make a commitment, which is the most difficult thing, right? And you have to make a commitment on a daily basis. You can't say that I will do it once in a while and I'll feel good about it. It's like going to the gym. You have to make a routine. You have to make a commitment. Only if you do it every day does it benefit you, right? So let me talk about some very specific things that parents can do. And we generally recommend, so a lot of parents talk to me and I generally recommend them, what I call TTC. There are 3 things, TTC.
Okay.
So first T is talk. So talk as much as you can. Now this talking as much as you can is easier said than done. So you're talking to them like adults. You're supposed to be using good vocabulary. Now you may or may not have that great vocabulary, right? You may or may not know so many new words, correct? Or ideas that you want to present to the child. So how will you do it? You need to make notes. You need to prepare. You need to every day have a new conversation. Someday someday talk about varieties of mangoes, or talk about stars in the sky, or talk about your own childhood and the things that you learned in your childhood. Talk about how how is the environment in your office, things like that.
So we should know every day what we want to talk to our child about. So we should already have it prepared.
Make notes.
Make notes. Okay.
Be sure to include a lot of new words and new thoughts and new ideas and sophisticated words and so on, because that is what is going to make all the difference. So
we assume that the child is understanding, because mostly we assume that they are not actually, but they do understand.
They do. Go back to the language example. They're picking up the language, right?
That's so true. That's so true.
There's this Indian tribe, Native Americans, the Indian tribe of America. I read somewhere that traditionally they would teach their child to ride a horse by the age of 2.5 years.
Okay.
So how did they manage to do it? Even in our own culture, even in our own tradition, in our own mythology, we get all these references. A reference of Abhimanyu learning to get into the Chakravyuh in his mother's womb. Right?
Yeah.
So why these references are there? These references not there just for nothing. Because there has been a culture of teaching children early on, correct? I think it's in the days of very formal education that we have lost it. The second thing is, look, we used to live in joint families. So they were grandparents, they were cousins, they were uncles and aunties. I mean, they would talk to children all the time. And everything adds up, right? This little thing, this little thing, everything adds up. But today, the kind of social structures that we have, most of us do not have the privilege of giving that exposure to our children, right? Because probably the grandparents are not staying together, or
That's
even
so true.
right. So these are the things. So now you need to get that structure in your.
So first thing I understand is that we need to talk to our children about different topics, and we should have them prepared. And if we don't know them, we should research and make notes and do it with our children.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What else?
The second thing is tell. Now this tell is slightly different from talk. In tell, you are actually telling stories, singing rhymes, bringing some other experiences. I mean, which you can tell. So stories. Why is it? So telling stories does not just mean you read the stories. So you can get lots and lots of storybooks, read to them, but then you also tell your own experiences. So children then once again get exposed to new words and new ideas and new imagination. You also bring new imagination to them. So get as many books you can. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you how much people do that I have come across. So tell, and then third is curate. Curate, the word curation, like how museums curate different artifacts for you. You have to curate different experiences for your child. All kind of sensory experiences, various kind of smells, sounds, tastes, touch, textures, right? There could be hundreds of experiences that the child needs to go through to.
For example, Manish?
For example, so take small containers, safe containers, and fill different kind of grains in different containers and shake them next to your child's ear. Each one is making different sound, right? And generally, if you talk to a musician, he will say, this voice has better texture than that voice, right? Even voices are supposed to have texture. Let your child develop that fine sense of hearing. Get music, arts, imaginative. Teach your child how to paint in front of child, paint with the child. Bring various textures, what is soft, what is hard, weight. So how does a child learn what is heavy, what is light? Correct? Only by lifting. So you can't figure out what a weight is without experiencing it, right? So you need to experience it. So how do you make a child experience that? Right?
Okay.
So and in fact, a lot of these methods, I mean, if you went to a Montessori school, they would do this. Some of it is available there. If you went to a Waldorf school, some of this, especially the creativity, imagination side is available there, right?
Yeah.
But then when you wait that long that the child is going to the school, one, it is too late, or a preschool, it is too late. And two, you're not sure. It really depends on the school and to what extent these exposures will be given. And the third and the most important issue here is children that small need a lot of love and care, right?
Yeah.
They like to learn from the caregiver or parent who they can trust, correct? So that personal love, care, attention that children need, only you can give, not
That's
this,
so true.
right? And that is why you need to take charge.
Yeah, so I understand that it is a serious commitment from the parent side, but I can see that it's worth it and it's possible. We can do it.
Absolutely. It is possible. And frankly, you don't have a choice. As a parent, if you have chosen to be a parent, this is what you're supposed to do. This is your, so while this is an opportunity, it is a great opportunity.
Responsibility, I understand.
Yeah, and it is a responsibility, and responsibility not just towards your child, responsibility towards the world at large. Why? Because you're writing the future of the world. I truly believe that parents are right. I mean, each parent who has a little child is writing the future of the world, because you don't know what impact this child is going to have on the world. Maybe this child will grow to be a leader who will change millions of lives. Maybe this child will grow to be a scientist who will find cure to the most deadly disease, right? Maybe this child will, the possibilities are immense. And you have
all this base is created in the first 3 years.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. So Manish, I'm a parenting coach and I talk to so many parents. A lot of parents, they think that they are doing a lot, and they are. I think they are doing a lot of things with their children already.
Yes. I think most parents do something or else, and that's a good part. Parents are aware, but then there are two traps that I find parents in. One, that they, and which you basically touched upon earlier, that the first is there is almost a resistance, reluctance inside them, because they think the child is very small, and because the child is very small, I shouldn't be doing too much. So the quantity goes down. They are deficient on the quantity, and then they are not doing enough, because they do not believe that they should be doing enough. In the insurance industry, they say that you should take insurance is only useful when you take enough insurance, correct? When it covers your risk fully. Similarly here, if you're not doing adequate level of activities, then it's not going to benefit you as much. One. Two, the second trap that parents have they believe they are doing, but they're not doing. What do I mean by that? I always use that gym analogy, that a lot of people, they take the gym membership, they show up at the gym once a week or once a month, and then they believe that they are doing the right things, and then they don't lose weight, and then they say, oh, gym doesn't work. No, it does not. It works if you do every day consistently, if you have a routine. So what I recommend to parents is that, one, maintain a routine, do 5 days a week at least, right? And second, do enough. Don't be reluctant. So parents that I know who have achieved significant results, we are talking about in 3 years, they would have covered 5,000-6,000 flashcards. They would have covered hundreds and hundreds of storybooks. They would have covered so much, maybe hundreds of conversations. They would have done probably dozens of developmental experiences that they would have curated for their child before the age of 3. So it's the quantity and the quality, and most importantly, consistency that matters. So if you're doing it, great. My congratulations to you. but make sure that you're doing enough and you're doing every day.
Wow, Manish, thank you so much. That was very well put. So, Manish, tell us about this skill that you talk about, learning to learn. What is it all about?
Yes. And this learning to learn has been, I think, in the mainstream conversation, even among grown-ups today. And so let me first quote someone who I really admire. So there is this very famous author, Professor Yuval Noah Harari, who has written this very famous book called Sapiens, where he talks about the history of human beings, and then he has written the sequels of that book. It's a trilogy. So in the subsequent books, he talks about our future and what is going to be our future,
Okay.
especially as we face this very interesting time in our human history when there are things like artificial intelligence, which are in some way also, or at least as per some people, posing to be, threats to human dominance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so he talks about it, and he says that learning to learn is going to be the most important skill in 21st century, because as these changes, scientific changes, technological changes, uh, become more and more frequent and fast changes.
Yeah, it's changing too fast.
Exactly.
Everything's changing too fast.
Exactly. So then people will need to learn new skills every 3 to 5 years to stay relevant, right?
That's true.
To stay employed, people will need to rediscover themselves, relearn the whole, uh, you know, because people will pay you only when you're adding value. And to add value, if the technology changes, you need to learn new things. Right? So
Yeah.
that's what he talks about. So this learning to learn is going to become a very important skill, not just for children, but also for adults. But let's talk about children. So what happens is in these first 3 years, when you're working on the right amount of brain development, and it is not even extra brain development. That is what nature has designed us for.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to give the right ecosystem for children to have that right amount of brain development. Correct. So when you're working on that, you're essentially saving them from the drudgery that most children go through in school today. See these
What's that?
little children, they're running from one class to another, doing this, doing that. Why? Because they need someone to help them to learn better.
Mm-hmm.
But if a child became a brilliant learner himself or herself, you can save a lot of this drudgery that children go through in school, right? If they're sharp learners, they will pick up a lot of things on their own in less amount of time, right? So they will learn more, they will learn better, and they will not need as much help as they need today. And they will be able to lead better quality of life, even while growing up, right? So in school, it comes very handy. So this little investment that you make as a parent in the first 3 years gives great return on investment later, even while the child is studying in school, and of course in the career, because once the child has become a fast learner, the child will never become irrelevant. So this is the best gift you can give to your child. The ability to learn, right? Becoming a sharp learner. You can do that. I mean, you can empower your child if you do the right things in the first 3 years.
You have a point, Manish. I have this situation. There are so many parents who come to me and they tell me that my child is not taking interest in learning, is not studying. There's so many parents I counsel who have this issue. I think this is somewhere I can relate this, that it's because children are not ready to learn. They don't have the skill of learning to learn, which would have been instilled in the first 3 years.
Exactly. Yes, most of it. Okay. Look, I do not want to discount rest of the life.
Mm-hmm.
Each and every day of our life is important. But what we are talking about here is building a great foundation. And it is this foundation that helps you through your life, right? Your learning will never stop if you become a great learner. You will learn till the last day of your life, does not matter. But important is that you become a better learner when there is opportunity, when your brain is still developing. And that's why most of these neuroscientists will say that 85% of the brain development gets done by the three. Therefore, this window is very important. And it is. And that's the parents' responsibility.
So I would like to just say that to all the parents that this is the opportunity we have in our hands. We can actually increase our children's capacity to learn in the first 3 years. That's what I understand.
That's the word. Yes.
By capacity. Doing these little things, talk, tell, curate.
Exactly. And since you've spoken about that capacity, I like to, when parents come and talk to me, I like to use this analogy that, compare. So you have a small glass, right? 250 ml, and you have a big container, right? So when the glass is small, when you pour more water in it, it'll start sort of spilling. Right. It can't. Yes, spilling. It can't contain that. But when you have a big container, you can put more water in it. You can keep pouring, right? It can keep taking it. Exactly the same thing with brain. Now, when I say this, I'm not necessarily referring to the size, the physical size of the brain or weight of the brain, but I'm referring to the capacity of the brain to absorb more and more information, learn more and more. So you are essentially, when you do the right thing in the first 3 years, you're essentially growing the capacity of the brain.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are stretching the brain from a glass to a big pot so that we can imbibe more and more from the world and learn more.
Exactly. And learn better and learn faster.
Okay, wow, Manish, that's a lot of information for parents. So, Manish, what is your take on screen time for children? Well, how does screen time involve in this process?
Okay, brilliant. That's a very important question, and I'm glad that you asked this because there's so much of misinformation around screen time. And look, I have been reading up a lot about it. Let me start with some very basic things. So first of all, when experts say, people who understand this say that is use screen time or do not use screen time, mostly they're not referring to any dangerous effect of the screen on your child's eyes. I think that more or less modern day screens are relatively safer, right? So that issue, most of the people are not worried about. Most of the experts are not worried about, right? Or at least I haven't read anything where people are worried about the harmful effect of screens per se. But there are people who are concerned about screen time. So what is the reason they're concerned about screen time? They're concerned about the content, the social, the influence on the social or the impact on the social aptitude of a child, and the fact that child can get addicted. So talk about content. So what experts believe is that lots of moving images, lots of animation, it's not good for very small children. And in this context, we're only talking about children below 3. Yeah, it's not good for children. 2, if a child gets addicted to the screen, and if a child is then you're depriving the child of social experience, which is so very critical in the development of a child's personality, right? So those are the kind of objections that experts have against the screen time. But then the opinion is quite split in this. So if you talk about American Academy of Pediatricians, they say that no screen time till 18 months. And after that, 1 hour of screen time, which is social in nature.
Yeah,
so what is social? For example, if children are talking to grandparents on Skype call, or a parent is doing show and tell using the screen time. In other words, if you're showing the clean images which are good for children, if you're showing those images and the parent is showing and the parent is talking about it, so screen is accompanied not with the digital voice but with the voice of a parent, that social experience is okay, right? That's what they're saying. The British, so the counterpart of American Academy of Pediatricians in UK, the Royal Society of Pediatrics or something like that. This is not the correct name probably, but the body here, what they say is that, it's a trade-off, because these children are going to grow up in the digital world. So you can't also deprive them of their future. But at the same time, screen time, some aspects of screen time, as we mentioned earlier, may not be so useful. So what they're saying is that we are not going to prescribe any limit. Let parents exercise their own judgment. But then everybody is convinced that we should expose their children to some screen time at some point, because this is going to be their future. You can't take away their future from them. But if you're exposing them to the screen time, make sure that the experience is social, right? So you are accompanying it. I like to use 3 M's to describe this. I say, when you're talking about screen time, make it minimal, make it meaningful,
Okay.
right? And make it measured, right? So keep it to a limit, probably less than an hour. Let the content be meaningful for the child, right?
Which I understand, no moving images.
Yes, and social experience. Social experience.
And
Experience
socialism.
has to be social. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Manish, there is this product, Bablr, that your company has made, which works around this. How does that help parents?
Okay. So Bablr essentially is the outcome of these 2-3 years of research that my entire team has been doing. And like you said at the beginning, that we were collaborating with the experts and scientists around the world. What we figured is that the real issue is not the conviction of the parents. The real issue is not the intent. Look, all of us are logical, right? And there's nothing more we want in this world to give the best to our children, right? So we all want to give this best gift of life to our child when the child is below 3. So whenever we speak with parents and we tell them that, hey, you need to do this before the age of 3, they want to do it. It's not that they don't want to do it.
When I listen, Manish, right now, when I was listening to you and everything, I could understand what I have to do, but I couldn't understand how.
Exactly.
And also one question that I want to ask you before you move on is it even possible to do? How much time do we have to give our child to do this in a day?
Right. So let me answer those 2-3 questions one by one. And I think all these questions get answered in the journey of how we ended up creating Bablr and why did we create Bablr. So then the challenge is that parents do not know what they're supposed to do. They're capable of knowing it, and they'll go and they'll research on their own, and they can do it. But then they require time that needs to be invested in research. Also, if they know what is to be done, then they need the materials, all the paraphernalia. And so where do they get that from, right? And because this is a bit hard, this research is hard, this discipline is hard, this routine making is hard, and gathering the materials is hard, most of us don't end up doing it, right? Most of us don't end up doing it. And that is why we thought that why not empower each parent to do it in the comfort of their homes without any effort, very seamlessly, very effortlessly. If we empower each parent to do this, maybe more people will do it, right? And do it consistently. So let's go back to the point where I started.
Okay.
So I started because I met this fine woman who learned about this science when her daughter was not even born. And this was 15 years ago, right? That she picked up something somewhere. She went and attended some training program, and then Then she decided to leave her job. And then she started, gathering these materials, starting doing the research, and and started doing all this process with her little daughter. She tells me that it worked like magic. Her daughter is very, very, very intelligent, very bright.
Wow.
So then I asked her, so tell me, how many hours were you doing this? She said, look, with my daughter, between me and my husband, we were probably spending only 2-3 hours. That too included things that I would anyways do naturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask about this particular process, probably I was spending an hour, hour and a half, but I was researching for 2-3 hours a day. So in total, my time investment could be as high as 5 hours per day. Research.
Okay, so with the child, she was spending, what she was doing with her own daughter was only for 1 hour, 1.5 hour, but
Right.
she was preparing for that 1.5 hour, and that was taking another 3 hours.
Yes, more than, yeah.
Okay.
So you divide it into 3 buckets. One, that the time that people normally spend with their children anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second is the time that you spend with your children doing this new methodology.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Third, that the time that you spend researching and gathering materials or making materials, things like that, right? All this put together ends up becoming 5 hours a day, right? But if you make it efficient, if somebody gave everything to you on a platter, and if you were to just do it, this particular methodology will take probably 45 minutes to do it, 45 minutes to 1 hour. You will in any case spend time with your child, a quality time, because now you're saving time doing this research. Then you can you can spend that additional time with the child. The more the time you spend with the child, is better it is, right?
Of course.
So then we said, let's use the power of technology to democratize this, to empower every single parent so that she or he can do it. That's why we created Bablr. So what is Bablr? So Bablr is this long-term program that a parent can do at the comfort of her home with the child. And to empower the parent, we have created these various things. So when you have a Bablr package that you have taken from us, you will get a suite of apps. So you'll get a mobile app, a tablet app, and a web app, right? And you will also get a big box of materials, really big. It's a 3 cubic feet box every year. Now, when you put the details of your child in the app, the mobile app, which is for you, the digital side is for you mostly, not for the child. So when you have put your details of a child, there's a sophisticated algorithm running in the background. There's a software which decides what activity should this child be doing in a personalized manner today, based on the age and the progress of the child, right? So your app on a daily basis will give you a list of 8 to 10 things that you can do with the child on that day, based on this methodology, right? And to do those things, you will either use the materials from the box, or the app itself will have the contents for you to make use of. Let's go back to Talk, Tell, Curate. So app might give you one conversation topic every day. And conversation topic, now Bablr doesn't want to burden you, with the load of remembering everything. So what it will do is, it'll give you a quick guide for conversation that you can read in 5 minutes. And then you start talking to your child in your own language, right? And then your mobile app will have those cue cards. You can keep swiping the cue cards, and each cue card will give you talking hints, talking points. It's very easy, right? You're referring to a mobile phone, you're talking. It's one. Mobile phone, but I must clarify here. Mobile phone is not for the child, it's for the parent. Second, it might ask you to take your child for an experience tour. And it'll again give you the notes. So if you're taking your child to a park or a garden or a botanical garden, what exactly you're supposed to talk about? If you're taking the child to a museum, what exactly you're supposed to talk about? So it gives you all the notes, and notes in a manner that it is very easy to consume, right? then go to the material. Now it might say, all right, here's a little texture kit. So this week, take your child through various textures, and it'll come with a very detailed activity guide on how to, expose your child to various textures.
And
right?
those textures will be there in the box. We can just take them out and use them.
Yes.
Oh.
Or it may tell you to do an activity using your household materials. So it might ask you that, hey, why don't you, your child is already 2.5 years old. So motor skills are developed well. So why don't you take out different baby safe containers at home and keep them around yourself and the child, and remove all the lids. Do this little game of matching all the lids.
Wow.
Now, matching lids is both motor skills as well as cognitive development, right? And so on. So thousands and thousands of such things you will do. Two more things. Flashcards. Flashcards is a very popular methodology. Most parents use it and it works. It works, right? But most parents do not use it to the optimal level. Parents will do 100 flashcards, 200 flashcards, 500 flashcards. This woman that I'm referring to, who was doing this methodology, she had used thousands of flashcards with her child.
Okay.
Right? Or children who start reading by the age of 3, their parents end up using thousands of flashcards. Now, where do you get thousands of flashcards? So Bablr will give you those thousands of flashcards. Now, not only it will give you those 1,000 flashcards, the algorithm will decide exactly on each day which flashcards should you be showing, how many repetitions, right?
Okay, it's a curriculum.
For your child, based on the individual child's progress, it's personalized. Now, for a parent, normally it will be very difficult to figure out which flashcard today, how many repetitions, right? And there are Bablr babies who start reading by the age of 3, 2.5, 3. They start reading.
Amazing. That sounds amazing.
We have an example in India of a 20-month-old baby who has started reading words. She's still reading at a very elementary level. Just she's picking up words. But hey, come on, 20-month-old baby, right?
That's too much. I think you're just working on enhancing the visual memory of our children.
Exactly.
Flashcards.
Exactly. Right? So that books. So we are asking you to tell stories. Now, Bablr platform will give you hundreds of books. So you can tell a story every day. So probably 4 to 6 new stories every week, right?
Wow.
So all this, everything is packed into one platform. Yeah. So that you don't have to, you don't have to waste your time. The only time you are investing is
you just have to do it
with your child. And then it also has a lot of other cool tools. It plans the calendar for you. You can make a routine. You can assign it to multiple caregivers. So each member of the family can do Bablr program on her or his own device, right? So on. So there are lots of, look, it's the power of technology and design, which is empowering you so that you do it every day.
So I understand that if I purchase Bablr as a product, so I am going to have an application on my phone, on my tablet, and I am going to, and when I fill my child's age, so they will give me personalized activities that I can do with my child in form of topics that I can talk to my child about, experiences that I can expose my child to, and I just need to give 1 hour or 1.5 hour maximum in a day. And anyways, I'm spending the whole day with my child. So doing these things, and I can even give these tasks to other members of the family.
Correct.
This is what I understand.
Correct. Yeah. And because the app is always updated, very much like your Netflix subscription, that you can open it from any device and continue from where you left, right?
Yeah.
If you have half watched a movie on one device, then you open it on another device, right? So you don't need to update anybody. You can assign it to your nanny, and your nanny can do it on her own device, and so on. So people, and the materials, there's a big box of materials. So there are, like I said, all the experiential things, the weights. So it'll come with different weights that you can use with your child. It'll come with puzzles. It'll come with lots of other activities that you can do with the child to then support the cognitive development process. And remember, everything is linked to everything else. So the stories that you're telling your child is linked to the flashcards, and then both of them in turn are linked to the conversations you're having and the experience tours having, or the materials that you get in the box are linked to the stories that you're telling, and so on. So then this picture is coming together for the child, right? And by the age of 3, the child is exposed to thousands of new words, hundreds of stories, and dozens of new experiences.
Wow.
Right? So it's very rich in that sense.
I also understand it's not only intellectually, it is also an emotional building process also, because we are spending so much quality time with our children.
Spot on. Yes. So because you are spending that kind of time with your child, there's a lot of bonding that's happening, because giving that love and attention to your child, there's a lot of bonding that's happening, and that helps. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to raise an intelligent, a very intelligent, but a very emotionally secure child, right? Another very interesting thing that I often hear from people who use Bablr is fathers love it, because what they say is that, look, I definitely want to spend time with my baby. I take time off my work and I want to spend time, but I don't know what to do. And then I end up sometimes teasing the child, or I end up doing things, and the child gets cranky. So when they do these activities with the child, the child loves it, they love it, and it results in better bonding of the father and the child, right? So that way also it helps. Absolutely.
That's so true. So Manish, there are so many products, so many boxes for children that are already available for them with materials for their learning. So how is Bablr different from them?
Right. Look, let me clarify. Bablr is neither material boxes, nor flashcards, nor storybooks. Bablr's proposition is not that you can go buy everywhere. Let me use one analogy. So let's say you want to learn how to play guitar. You have 2 alternative ways. One is that every now and then, when you feel like, maybe once a week or once a month, whenever you're in the mood, you go and meet up this friend of yours who knows how to play guitar, and she gives you 10-minute, 15-minute lesson or 20-minute lesson, or sometime you go and try out something on YouTube and do that, right? That's one way of learning guitar. Another way of learning guitar is that you join a structured formal class where you're having class every day at a set time. There is a qualified instructor who's giving you step-by-step lessons, right? And you do it not only over a period of a year or 2, but you are actually, probably you do a degree in music. These are 2 different ways, right? So all the random activities that are available in the market are the first type. You do randomly. Bablr is a structured program that you do on a sustained basis following a routine. So there's a curriculum which is at work in Bablr. It's a 6-dimension curriculum where you talk about linguistic ability, you talk about knowledge of the world, you talk about math and reasoning, you talk about developmental experiences, you talk about music and arts, you talk about general development. So these are the 6 dimensions of Bablr curriculum. And based on these 6 dimensions, there are 9 different activities that the curriculum gives you to do on a daily basis. But that's the base. What is more important is that you have this algorithm or a software which is constantly thinking and deciding what your child should be doing on that particular day based on the age and the progress, right? So this algorithm or a software...
age and the progress, when you say, that means it's personalized for me, for my child.
Exactly. It's personalized for the needs of your child. So how many repetitions, what sequence, everything is decided by this algorithm. And it is also capturing your feedback on a daily basis. So it asks you to give 1-tap feedback, and it takes that feedback into account to decide what you should be doing tomorrow. It's like having a private tutor, it's like having an early learning expert at home who's deciding every day with her fine judgment what the child should be doing on a daily basis, right? So that's the real value. So the fact that you do it on a daily basis, the fact it is not random, it is structured, the fact that it is consistent makes all the difference. Like once again, like going to the gym. If you go to the gym every day, if you do the right kind of exercises, if you do them in the right sequence, if you eat right, then only you will achieve the results, correct?
Like a personal trainer.
Randomly, correct. Yeah, it's like having a personal trainer sometimes, a personal dietitian. If you do things randomly, you will more likely, you will not, right, do it. So that's why. So this is a structured, algorithm-driven program that you have to take a child through.
Wow, I suddenly, Manish, feel so bad that my son actually is 4 now. I'm feeling I missed something. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, but hopefully you still have some time, and then since you are this parenting coach, and I'm sure when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to hundreds of mothers, and through you, the message goes to them, and we can help so many children, realize their true potential.
That's so true.
Yes, and which is the mission that I'm on, and I want to clarify this. Look, this session is not about Bablr. I can assure you that as a parent, if you want to do this, you can do this on your own. Just remember, talk, tell, curate. 3 things. Make a schedule. If you're an aware parent, you can do the research on internet. You can do it yourself, right? The value of Bablr is that if you want to save that time, and instead of spending 4 or 5 hours yourself gathering the materials, curating the materials, if you would rather spend that time with the child and give this to somebody else, that's us. We will give you a complete system that you don't have to then worry about anything. You just do it, right? That's the value. But you can do it on your own. You don't have to buy Bablr to do it. I will be very happy if after going through this masterclass, each parent decides to do it. It doesn't matter if they buy Bablr or they don't. My job is done if you do it with your child, right?
So all the parents who are listening to this, at least do something after this masterclass. Let's do something with your children. Talk, curate on your own or buying this product, but do it. Do it for your child.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Manish, how much does this Bablr product cost?
Well, it costs less than a preschool.
Okay.
So, and we've gone an extra length to make sure that it does. So if you picked up an average preschool annual cost, Bablr would be roughly 50% of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and we sell 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year packages that parents or programs that parents can take, depending on how old the child already is. Yeah.
Okay.
So the annual cost.
How old does the child have to be?
If your child is not born already, I will say start on the day the child is born.
Okay.
But we have a couple of pediatrician parents who are one of the parents is pediatrician. There are actually 2 of them. They bought even before the child was born.
The child was born?
Yes. And they started using right on the day the child is born, because they are pediatricians. They understand the science, right? So you have to start. But if your child is already born, you can start anytime. You can register for the Bablr program anytime before your child turns 3, before child's 3rd birthday. So a child 2 year, 11 month, 29 days can also register and continue for at least a year, right?
Okay.
So anytime between 0 to 3 is the answer then. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we also have scholarships. So while the program already costs 50% of an average preschool on an annual basis, there are some scholarships and other things available, which parents get to know when they get a counseling session. Yeah.
It sounds like that we have to start our children's preschool. It just has to start a little early.
Exactly. And early you start at home and you take charge. You don't outsource it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, it seems it is a commitment, but it is definitely doable. So, so Manish, that we have understood that this is what we need to do for our children, but there will be parents who might be interested in this product and might be interested in doing this with their children. So how can they get in touch with you?
Right. So we are present on across. So maybe we can show it on the screen.
Okay,
they can just come to our website, which is www.gobablr.com, which is on the screen. On our website, they can book a free counseling session. And in that counseling session, the counselor will take them through the whole process and also demo the product. So what kind of apps, how do you operate the apps, and what kind of physical materials that you get in the box.
So
right?
There will be one-to-one guidance for us if we purchase it.
And it's completely free, no commitment.
Okay.
So they can just book a free counseling session on our website. We are also there on Facebook, Bablr Early Learning. We are there on Instagram by the name Bablr Early Learning, or Go Bablr is our Instagram handle.
Okay.
YouTube. So there are, and also on your screen, you might want to show our helpline number, so people can also call or send us a WhatsApp message. Yeah, and so there are at least a dozen ways through which people can get in touch. I would recommend that you get in touch and request for a free counseling session and a demo. Decide for yourself. Okay. You have to do this. Look at take the counseling session and the demo. Decide for yourself if this is something that fits into your scheme of things. If this is something that can help you. I'm pretty certain it will, but then you decide for yourself.
Wow, that sounds incredible. I must say to all the parents, even if you purchase this product, even if you are just interested to know more about it, do take this free counseling session. It is definitely going to help everyone. It was an amazing session, Manish. Thank you so much for this amazing masterclass. And I will just say, parents, let's use this knowledge. Let's not let it go from here. Let's use this knowledge, imbibe it, and do something for our children to make them better learners, to actually do something about the brain development, which is taking place at such a fast rate in the first 3 years. Thank you, Manish, for guiding us.
Thanks. And my parting message to each one of you who's watching the masterclass is that this hour or something like that I've spent will be considered well spent if you start doing TTC, which is talk, tell, curate, with your child starting today, right?
Wow.
Other paraphernalia, including Bablr, you can arrange, but start doing talk, tell, curate with your child today. It is going to make a huge difference. This is the best gift you're going to give to your child.
Let's make our children's brain, let's stretch it from a glass to a proper big container so that our child can imbibe and learn in future.
Exactly.
That's what I understand.
Yes. And while this is a great opportunity for you and your child, this is also your responsibility to the world, because it is this child who's going to grow up and solve a lot of problems that we, when we grow old, will not be able to solve. Great. Thanks for having me in this class.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you so much for this full of information.
Thank you.